Hi, my name is Guilherme Ciosi and I'm studying International Relations at UFRJ. Today, the subject of my talk is what is called o Complexo de Vira-Latas, or in English, the mongrel complex. And I chose this topic because I think it's very important for us, as Brazilians, to know our own thoughts and our own opinions about ourselves, and as a nation. And I divided the work in three parts. Firstly, I'll try to explain what it is and how it was created. Then I'm going to try to talk about its relevance for Brazilians, and then I'm going to give my opinion about what we can do to change it. So the mongrel complex is an expression firstly formulated by the Brazilian writer Nelson Rodrigues, and it refers to the Brazilians' defeat by Uruguay in the World Cup in the 50s. However, what was initially an idea that represented certain soccer inferiority ended up being a metaphor to the Brazilians' behavior related to the rest of the world. So for example, it's very common for you to notice in the Brazilian speech some expressions of distaste, such as I can stand here, or I don't belong here, or that only happens in this country. And that represents the general feeling that Brazilians have about themselves. So Brazilians tend to assume that everything that comes from outside is better and superior than what we have here, whether they are values, culture, or products. But where does that come from? The generalized feeling of inferiority is not something new, and we can look at it as a result of historical and social factors associated with the formation of Brazil. The conception of the colonizer, in which Brazil appears to be a land of savages and heathens, was constructed since the beginning of our colonization. What's interesting to notice is that since that time, the colonizers were already seeking to impose their beliefs, their traditions, their moral values to the Indian people that used to live here. That was the start of a culture of subordination and submission by Brazilian citizens, and which culminated in this so largely and common feeling of inferiority. To support this idea, I quote here the speech of the Brazilians PhD and anthropologist Laura Jane Booth, who defined nationalism as a mark of identity, a feeling that stimulates the individual to identify himself with a specific group, differentiating him from others. In her words, what has been happening in Brazil is the fact that for a very long time, the country has been identifying itself with certain cultural values that don't feel to satisfy anymore the image that Brazilians want to have of themselves. Throughout history, the Brazilians' cultural inferiority have already been attributed to a lot of different causes, such as the miscegenation between different people, the ignorance of Brazilian people, and even to structural health problems. All of those justifications, however, only seems to recognize and to prove the internalization by the Brazilians of the perspective of the colonizer. And that's why I think it's very important for us to understand that sentiment and to admit it, and then fight to try to modify it. Of course that the objective of this presentation is not to generalize the feeling related to the mongrel complex for all Brazilians. There are a lot of people who don't feel that way. People who can recognize the true value of Brazilians' traditions, of Brazil's culture, of Brazil's reality. That doesn't mean as well that we shouldn't be aware of all the bad things that happen here, because Brazil has a lot of social problems, and they shouldn't be denied. But we should battle to change it. Those changes are not going to be conquered through a feeling of contempt related to our own country, but through a fight to achieve a quality education. And after that, we are going to be able to recognize our true value and to reevaluate the vision that we have and the vision that we want to have about ourselves.